Aloha, everyone. Carlotta with the Light Body Lifestyle have a true treat for you today. Our Connect with Lovelight Speaks is with Miss Cora, and whew, what a beautiful soul. I can't wait to introduce her and share her with you today. And I'm just giving her a couple of moments to log in. It looks like she's here.
Oh,
Hi,
hi
beautiful.
there. Oh, so good to see you.
You are ravishing. Look at you.
Thank you. Oh my gosh. I was I was checking in and realizing that I'm feeling really nourished. Like I've been learning, taking care of myself cosmically and spiritually has been something I've done for many years, but taking care of my body and like my skin and my just the physical has been a newer addition.
Mhm.
And uh, I feel really like there's a lot of energy flowing out right now because of the nourishment, at least somewhat because of that.
Well, abundance is like, woo, when you're abundance with nourishment, you radiate it, right? When you're
Yes,
full, it's easy. You just give it because you're full, right? So,
exactly.
well, hello,
That's
Cora.
hello, CJ. Oh my gosh, I know I could just go right into. I was just going to say that that's how the world was created to me is that the infinite was overflowing with so much love that there had to be a creation, a giving of the infinite into form, because that's what happens when we're in overflow. There's a natural creation and giving.
Chicken skin. You just gave me so much like, wow, what a thought. What a woo. I'm feeling that like every ounce of my body is like bullseye.
Yeah.
Wow, isn't that an absolutely gorgeous thought
Hmm.
and concept to embrace? Whew, girl,
Yes.
see how you deliver. We haven't even begun, and you've delivered some wisdom.
I'm so glad you're recording. I just saw that you've already started. Oh, good.
Yes, yes. Well, because I always check the reception and everything,
Yes.
and so it's a work in progress. I'm a baby at this. I'm still getting used to the nuances and all. But welcome, beautiful Cora.
Oh.
You are such a radiant breath of fresh air. I learned about you through my coursework, becoming an integrative coach. You were actually in my coursework, maybe several years ahead, I'm not sure.
Mhm.
And I'll just say this, it was a profound coursework. It covered and was very holistic and comprehensive and inclusive, which is why I chose it. It was very well rounded. When I got to your part of the coursework where they were featuring you and your style, and what emanated the most was this immaculate grace,
Mm.
this heart centeredness and awareness of deep nurturing and deep connecting, like the most I it was something that it was like only love could reach that place where you could identify with another in a way where they did not feel vulnerable,
Mm.
and it was so effective. And I was just like, ding, 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 this one's got it. Like, if 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 someone had a hard time responding to your style of work,
Mm.
I mean, they've just got to be a rock because, like, I don't mean that in a bad way, but it's just like, if, you know, you just seemed like you emanated the something that anyone, anywhere, from any background could resonate with and discover something about themselves. It was just such a beautiful approach. So I thank you for that, because it helped me set my bar. And, life is good. Life is good now.
Oh, well, you're so welcome. And thank you for being in a place within yourself where you could receive the love that comes through. Because I think the only reason someone wouldn't one of the only reasons I'll say that someone wouldn't connect in with my style or my heart is because they're not in a very loving space with themselves. Because if there's that block happening, then actually there can be a lot of resistance towards my energy and what I have to give. So it says a lot about you that you were so open and in such a loving place already with yourself that you could receive.
Oh, no brainer. No brainer. But yeah, it's part of also being able to receive that divine feminine.
Mm-hmm.
Recognizing
Yes.
it, right? Recognizing it and going, oh yeah, like this is true nurturing, like a wealth. You are literally priceless as far as I'm concerned to the collective and to humanity. The way your awareness approaches, and just your, like, in person, just your energy is beautifying and calming and soothing. So yeah, I've had the true synchronicity to cross paths, in real life afterwards. Isn't it wonderful? Isn't it wonderful how we're like that tribe vibe? Somehow on this massive rock, we end up finding one another. Hello, it's like, wow, how profound is that? And of course, Mama Kauai, she's got that magnet of the divine feminine energy anyway. She calls us. So that's how we met, in person. Yeah. Wow. Should we just launch? Cora, what would you like to share about what's happening for you? What you find is really, maybe calling forth, what you've noticed calling forth. And we've gone through a lot this year with the public and our world at large, humanity at large. After maybe sharing a little bit more about particularly what you do, maybe go into that. Like, what do you feel is really significant for the world at large? But I do want people to know, like, what it is that, you contribute and why you felt this was the right path for you.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Well, so a little more about what I do. And I'm laughing because I didn't realize as a kid I was already doing what I do now. And that is, I create a space with anyone who's with people who are willing and ready to enter it, of heart connection. So a connection to our hearts, and what I would say to the unified field, but I would say a connection to our hearts and then to the universal heart. So when I work with clients, it's helping them drop from the very limiting cuckoo place of the mind into the vast expanse of unconditional love available to all of us within our hearts. And then that connecting us to the universal love that is all. So what a client would experience in that journey would be most likely starting off in more of a fear, anxious place, fear-based, anxious, lack, overthinking, perfectionism, control, feeling like something's always missing place, to a place of peace and trust and connection and love as a way of being. That's what I offer. That's what this work, the work I do, offers someone. And it's a journey, because that the deepening into that heart space is lifelong. We get to a certain level and we can just go deeper and deeper. And yes, so that's a little more about what I do.
And so well, you do it so well. And now it makes sense. You were saying, you want to share a little bit more about, you were saying you realized you were doing it all along.
All along. Well, so, I mean, of course, my name is Cora, which is corazon means heart in Spanish. The word Cora means victorious heart, the name. And I was doing it all along where I noticed that in high school, especially, like the woman that was severely anorexic, and it brings up emotion to think about her. We're still good friends, and didn't know where to turn, opened up to me about what was going on. Or the boy whose father was beating him shared it with me. Or the kid who came out as gay in my small Kansas town told me. And I recognized that pattern a little bit back then, but I look at it now and I see that I was creating a safe space, or we were creating, because I think it's a co-creation, of course, with the other and with the one. And so what I recognized is that was happening all along. And now I would even put it in words of, I help create a safe space, co-create a safe space for people to drop into their hearts and share what's really going on, what's really present. Yeah.
So you were just built this way, and recognize your magnetism and how people intuitively felt safe with you to share the deepest, darkest things that, were most difficult.
Yes. And I'm not sure I recognized it at the time, but upon reflection, I do. But I know that I've always, even as a teenager or a kid, I honored each person with deep reverence. I always saw whoever was coming into my movie, I saw them as a saint. I saw them, and it brings up emotion. I saw them as a miracle. I saw them as an angel. I could actually feel wings. And I didn't, so there was that kind of, I held people preciously. And I had very, very challenging moments too. And when it comes to relationships, it was when the human things get involved, like over attachment and codependency, or that was still there. I don't want to make it sound like it was this heaven on earth all the time experience. I had my own insecurities too, and was very concerned about how other people perceived me too. So it was a mixed bag, but meaning I had a lot of different iterations of Cora. Like there were times where I could be really present and in that divine feminine spaciousness. And then there were times where I was totally in my head and ego and freaking out. But the pattern and the theme of deep soul and heart connection, of seeing a person's magnificence, that's been there. And I'm so grateful for that. I mean, I just feel like, you ask me if I believe in God, not you, but anybody. I look at everyone. Of course I believe in the divine. She's right here. And I had in sacred ceremony one moment, one time, I was shown that I've never doubted the presence of the divine, and that's very unique. That many of us go through periods of doubting and believing and doubting and believing, but for me it's been a really consistent knowing.
Yeah, I can see that's the human condition.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yes.
Is that sense of illusion of separateness that we've been handed down.
Yeah.
And the process of not navigating from an external landscape.
Yes.
But forging that inner navigation, that intuition, that gut feeling, and learning to trust this and be so much that you act upon it for the betterment of yourself and others. In other words, learning how to be fiercely sovereign, and because you are divine, because we are source in a drop, right?
Yes.
And wow, what a gift though, to never question the divine or to always have that. I resonate with what you say about, you look back and you saw the pattern, and I have something similar like that, where, I realized, oh, okay, but it took me 30 years to recognize it in a way, to put it together, like to actually, like comprehend it on a level that I could actually start to navigate it appropriately. Right. And be truly functional about it. So yeah. And there is that integration of, okay, I get that. This is how I'm built. But then there's that integration of, the balance between divine and human. We're here. We have to fit in. We have to work with what we got, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, I'm laughing when you said how to make it fully functional. Like you recognize because the pattern, but how do we channel the energy and the gift and the service in a way that is functional and healthy even, and yes, the integration of human and divine. Oh my gosh, I actually went through a few years very recently. Kauai was a major teacher for me in this, but of life required me to face and embrace my humanness. I floated for a long time in this earth angel spiritual coach role and bypassed a lot of the darker, I don't know if darker is the word, the messier insecurities, fears of my human self to play up in the clouds a bit, and life just went, it's time to look at these fears and these doubts and this pain and these past traumas and look at them and embrace them and feel the feelings and crawl in the muck and ask for support, be held. Like I was forced really to ask other people to hold me, and it was very painful, and thank Goddess for that experience. And also to be on Kauai for that, to be held in the most beautiful paradise I've ever co-created, was it was profound. It's timing and location for that.
Yeah. The cosmos knows, right? What will truly do the job, and it will nudge us. We get those nudgings, and the key is to learn to listen and follow, to surrender to that, in my opinion, to surrender to that which is your heart's. If it's here, it's not going to stop. It's not, if it's in your heart and you're not honoring it, it's not going anywhere until you do. And then you get the bounty of doing so, even though it feels like muck, right?
Yeah.
And I feel
Yeah.
you. I've been through very similar. I mean, I was out of body for probably 30 something, 40 years. It took me a long time to realize. I didn't know, honestly. I had no idea I was that not disassociated to my body. I was very much expressive, but I was not connected to the human condition. And so to go back and, like you said, like go through the gauntlet of accessing and accepting the human and the story, the backstory, and getting into that nitty gritty, devastating. But it's like the phoenix, right? And we're always learning, and we're teaching, learning. It's an infinite cycle, right? And I couldn't be more grateful for at least having the courage, like you have, to do it. We can't be effective unless we transform ourselves. We can't lead and guide and assist and empower and motivate and inspire others unless we've walked it and did our version of it, right?
Yes, yes. And I love what you're saying about not being in your body for all that time. I wasn't either. I mean, I love it. If we had met back then, we would have just played in the ethers together. But I was bypassing the body, and embodiment has been a huge part of my journey. And I think that I had done a lot of healing up to that point, and then embodiment was required.
Yeah.
And especially for what you're saying, if I was going to serve and show up as a coach or a client or coach or mentor or guide, I was going to have to do that next chapter of healing and growth, which was going to mean the nitty gritty human, messy body, all of that. And yeah, whoa, what a time.
Right. And I feel like it was, like you said, a requirement. Because what I learned in my career was, prior to our shared certification,
Yeah.
was that I ended up being of service to people prior to that. And I was assisting them. I was accommodating them. I was offering relief. I was, being effective up to a certain degree. And then I hit a wall because I realized that there were going to be lines around the block because people were willing for someone else to be their healer. And I realized, because they will come to me every week. They will show up, and there's not enough of me. So I realized that I had to take the next step within myself and dive into that so I could understand the missing link that I hadn't gotten yet. And then once I realized, oh, okay, this is all about self-care. And part of self-care, which was available, was the modalities exterior and external to us. And then once you gobble up all of that, the guided meditation, the yoga, the breath work, all of that, it allows us to go, oh, there's more. And that's the soul part. That's the internal part. That's the being accountable to yourself part, and realizing you are the divine creator, magnetizing everything that's in your realm. So that's the part that I was like, oh, I can't really do this for people like this anymore. I have to go through this recalibration and inner evolution so that I can recognize where people are on their path, and then ask them, learn to know what questions to ask them, tuning in to that source to realize, okay, now I get what their part is, and rather than giving them that part, it's for me learning what questions do they need to hear so that they can find their own answers.
Whoa. What you're saying to me, what I'm hearing is helping your clients or people, I don't know what word you use, clients, something, we know what we mean, to tap into their own inner healer and own inner guide and own inner compass. Whoa,
I
yes,
learned to rely on that.
that,
Not,
yeah,
not me, not a practitioner, but I'm like, look, you have this inside of you. Let's
yes.
learn what that looks like and feels like.
Mm,
It's like the black box inside of them, right? And I'm like, if you know it and you understand it, you can start navigating through it,
yes.
and life transforms, and you will never need another else outside of you unless it's a chosen co-creation, or if it's like an impact injury where, yeah, I need to, cast this. But mentally, emotionally, spiritually, you're your own guru, right?
Yeah.
And that's, where I was led to go deeper, because, and it has to be through the heart. There's no other route, period, in my opinion. There is a mind-heart coherence. When you forge the coherence between the mind and heart, when they become allies, besties, right? Then we have a avenue, like a fortified avenue. And that takes a long time for many of us, to let that mind take the co-pilot rather than the pilot situation, right? Boom. That's a big one for most of us, to fully trust our hearts. We weren't taught that. Why weren't we taught that, Miss Cora?
We weren't taught that. And I actually remember my mom and I have this amazing relationship, and she's very spiritual in her way, and she's actually a Christian minister. And she became ordained at 67, went to seminary at 64. And I remember when I was deepening into intuition, and which I would now say is the voice of the heart or the soul. I remember telling her about it because it started for me with intuitive eating and exercising, because I had major struggles with my body and weight and dieting. And so I started with intuitive eating and listening to that voice around food and exercise, and then going, whoa, this feels really amazing. What would happen if I listened to that voice around my other areas of my life? And that's really when everything shifted for me, much more to a soul-centered existence, heart and soul-centered. But I remember telling my mom about that, and she got this worried look in her face and basically said, well, how do you trust that voice? What if that's the voice of the devil or the voice of the ego? Or how do you know it's intuition? And so I think that fear or that distrust is relatively common in mainstream America. And I think it can be connected to religious dogma or, religious dogma or other fear-based
Yeah, no doubt.
belief systems.
Yeah.
Because, for me, CJ, I feel like I actually trust so deeply that I can tell the difference between the ego voice and the knowing of my heart and soul. And the truth is, if it's actually the ego voice and I follow it, I'm gonna know pretty fast.
Right. It's got a system in there, really, right?
Yes, yes. And so I'm actually okay with trusting it and then finding out, oops, well, now I learned that actually wasn't my truth. But I feel like it's all about being able to drop down and in. And I love it. Like, I like the idea of the brain as a co-pilot, because it's not the brain's offline. The brain is a phenomenal tool and guide too, just not in charge.
I really love this. You're such a smart cookie.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah, and I do feel like the culture, mankind in its own, has been taught to surrender their power, which immediately puts them in a state of fear or
Yes.
disconnected from their intuition.
Yes.
It's saying give your trust to the exterior, external God
Mhm.
or whatever, however you want to call it, rather than saying, guess what? You're the source.
Yeah.
You actually have the answers, which means everything's inside of you, which means you're not only capable, but you're accountable. And I think the religious dynamics have a lot to do with being willing, maybe not consciously, to give up the accountability that comes with the awareness. And if I'm not accountable, then and I'm powerless, then it's not really my responsibility. And now I become, there's a different dynamic now where I'm not a creator, I'm a
Mhm.
responder to a creation
Yes.
rather than being, no, yeah, my bad, oops, and being able to say, oh, okay, I made a mistake, right? So there's a vulnerability by being that creator and being fully guided by your intuition, because you're going to have to. There's a segment, there's a part of that gauntlet where you fall off into the alligator pit a couple of times, and then you realize, okay, that's where you learn and you practice again and again to make mistakes, to refine that inner guidance so that you realize sooner or later you don't fall anymore, because you realize, oh, okay, no, yeah, but you have to go through that stage. You
Mhm.
have to go through that stage where you may not know which one's ego or which one's your intuition, but sooner or later you start choosing what works.
Mhm.
You have to fail enough times to where you realize what works and just stick to it.
Yes, and even I mean I'm thinking back to my last month, and there were moments where I would say, "Whoa, I really went against my intuition there." But what happened, what unfolded was such a profound learning experience that maybe my soul knew to go against the intuition so that I would learn these specific lessons. And so it's that I personally have such a profound trust in it all a majority of the time. I'm trying to think if I ever really okay, full disclosure, my humanness. I think in the area in my the areas in my life where sometimes I question the total trust has been, I'm ready to shift this, but romantic relationships and finances. Those are the two areas that for me have been more of a challenge to just live in trust. And you too. We're mirroring.
Well, I honestly think that those are the two areas that the social conditioning are really got their claws into as well.
Yeah.
So,
Sorry to interrupt you. I
no,
got excited.
yeah.
Yes, and I think the third is body and health. I've I'm really feeling peaceful in that area currently, but that was a hard one for me for many years. But I feel like it's social conditioning. I feel like it's the three areas where most of us are taught to give our power away and look to the external for validation or the answers, or to be saved or whatever else. And so those have been my more challenging places. And it's also been a blessing to go through what I have.
Yeah, and by the way, I loved what you shared on your recent birthday. Congratulations, my young, young, young goddess.
Thank you.
And what you posted about, what what life is for you now, you
Mm.
know, was remarkably beautiful. It was it 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 was profound in many ways, not only because of the depth, but there was a simplicity of acceptance that I could just feel as reading it. I could literally sense the ripple effect that it would have and does have on those who are contemplating those thoughts and those concepts and the relationships they're having in those arenas, and the self-reflection that it ignites. And I was literally doing a happy dance. I was like, this is a true gift, right? To come to this type of awareness and clarity. And on your birthday, you're gifting it to everyone else, right? As such a reflection. And again, that's why I consider you such a lighthouse, right? Is because we're able to be vulnerable enough to share those deep insights to the world so that they feel human too. And they still know, Cora, out of all these people, Cora has these human feelings. Wow. Because it takes away the whole dynamic between like someone who has to be a saint or someone who has to be this pure, or just it humanizes the experience. It humanizes the journey of becoming into oneself and fully integrating oneself and accepting oneself. I just thought it was absolutely gorgeous.
Thank you, CJ. And I feel like to truly embody the unconditional love that we are, that includes embracing the human parts and pieces like I was sharing earlier. And so as I've been willing to do that more, I've actually experienced more love, more of a connection to the divine. The more I'm human and messy and accept that, the more I feel a connection to the angels. It all goes together. And I'm hearing this Meredith Bainbridge or Meredith Brooks song. I can't remember her exact name, but it's that song that goes, I'm a bitch, I'm a lover, I'm a child, I'm a mother, I'm a sinner, I'm a saint. I do not feel ashamed. I feel like there is so much potency and power in those words. There's a spirit. I feel like there's spiritual perfectionism in our community and world that can look like I'm supposed to be a saint all the time. I'm supposed to be an earth angel all the time. I've accessed unconditional love, so I have to be that all the time. And I really fell for that. I say my ego hijacked my spiritual journey and said, okay, now this is who I am. This is my new identity. And it was just another ego costume.
Beautiful. Yeah, and I think that's the thing that we're seeing more and more now, though, is that people are realizing that really doesn't serve us, and that doesn't really help the collective, and it doesn't really help us, and it is bypassing. And what's most important is to be able to be inclusive and accepting and say, which is my favorite answer back to high school, was all the above.
Mm-hmm.
Default to I'm all the above. All the above. Like, because we cannot be separate of anything.
Nope.
Right? And there is no such, for me, there's no such thing as perfection besides totally accepting the moment for what it is. Yeah. Otherwise, it's a projection, right? It's a construct. But if we can see anything and accept it for exactly what it is, then to me that is an act of perfection and acknowledging, and right, it's and we need to include ourselves into that. what are some of your processes for anchoring yourself into that heart-centered space?
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yes. So I have many, and I pick and choose day to day. One of my favorites is the morning ritual. Just how do I begin my day? And I don't turn on my phone for the first couple hours of the day. And I do turn on my computer, but I'm just checking my horoscope from my mentor, Gazale, and sometimes my Enneagram quote of the day. And so I do that. And then I usually pick a card, like an archetype. I have the archetype cards or the Rumi oracle cards. I pick one for the day and read about it and sit with it. And then I usually go for a walk in nature, because what I find is to really land in my heart, it's actually just staying there. It's not like it's because I wake up there.
Yeah.
It's the world. If I go into the externals and technology and then I might get into my head and get distracted by ego-y ideas. So I go into nature because nature has no ego. So when I connect with the river and I connect with the geese and I connect with the sun, I feel really landed and dropped in. And I used to do morning pages every day for 8 years. And that's 3 pages handwritten from Julia Cameron's The Artist Way. That, I believe that healed my anxiety story. And I don't do it anymore regularly, but my mom just said to me today, have you thought about going back to morning pages? Because I was just talking about my relationship with my inner compass and how can I hone that. And so that's another one. And then I also I have a Spotify list called meditation music, and it's all music by bands like East Forest, Trevor Hall, and different people that really open up my soul or connect with my soul, help me connect with my soul and spirit. And I'll listen to that and go on walks and keep my phone in airplane mode. All of that really drops me in. My coaching and that work really drops me in, because when I'm with a client, I'm so accountable to myself to be really here and really present to myself and to them. And so that is also very helpful. I just love what just came up for me. Making love, like that kind of intimacy with self or others. And of course, this is one where it's how we go about it. Where are we coming from? But when there's a sacred energy, like sacred space and container, wow, that's such a beautiful way to drop in. And not even, making love can happen in a conversation.
I was just about to say that. There's so many ways to make love.
Yes. I remember a man said to me one time, Cora, we've been making love for months through our words and our intimacy. And even though we hadn't been physical, and I really did feel that. So that is one. And then time with animals. And for me, because just animals have no ego, are pure love. So I recently was walking in a park here in Wichita, Kansas. So this is a city. I'm in the middle of the city in a park, and a wild owl flies in front of me, lands on the tree, probably 20 feet from me. And we just soul gazed for at least a half an hour. I had to leave. I had to decide, whoa, this has been amazing, but I actually feel to go move along with my day now. But that really drops me into. Those are lots of tools, and I could keep going, but that at least is some.
Oh, and it's gorgeous and simple things that anyone can do, which is I really appreciate. Right?
Yes.
It's applicable, um, and easily seen why that's so effective. Uh, and I like that they're practical, right? Because it's not rocket science. This whole gig isn't that complicated. It takes
No.
awareness, dedication, and follow through.
Exactly. And a willingness for it to be simple. Because I think my ego at least likes to go into, I know I just need to become a monk and then I'll live from my heart and soul, or I just need to shave my head and live in the Himalayas, or go to this specific retreat, or work with this specific teacher. But it's simple because, like a plant bends towards the light naturally, we bend towards living from our heart and soul. It's actually natural. What's not natural is fear-based, give our power away, try to stay in control, build our ego identities. That's actually not natural. That's just been what we've been fed.
Right. Right. Beautifully said.
Mm.
I love it. I love it. Wow. You want to play a little word game?
Yes.
Yes. This is a fun part for me. I was, by the way, I was forced to do this.
I hear you. It's definitely, I can feel that, like that it's moving through you. This is
Yeah.
meant to be. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. It was a process. I was shown, come to Kauai. Okay. I mean, my guidance, at least I can say, is very direct, very specific. And when I'm obedient and surrender, I am blessed beyond compare. The hardest part for me was being seen, coming out, pulling off the wall and being an actual flower, right?
Yeah.
But this guidance was very specific, kind of download. It was like, this is the direction. This is what you need to do. And they literally gave me 50 words, part of the process. So I said, really? 50? And they said, yep, number it. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to number them, right? And so you get to pick a letter, a couple, but we'll start with, a number 1 through 50. And then whatever the word comes up, you can share whatever comes up for you, or maybe what it's meant in your life, or what it means to you. Just, maybe whatever. But
so fun. Okay, 48.
48 is prevention.
Oh, wow. Oh my gosh. So what came up right away is prevention of like not unneeded drama, like unnecessary, it's like there's a way that that as I'm bumbling along as a human in my human Coco way, I'll get to a point where I can make a decision, or I'm making a decision, and my soul will literally go into observer and watch, and I can feel my observer soul will go, I can prevent you from walking into this fire. We can stop right now. This is unnecessary. And you might do it anyways, and you're going to be fine. But there is this moment of reckoning. And I can think of like dates I've been on where there's been those moments, or times I've said yes to commitments that I know are really a no, but I'm like doing it out of obligation or duty or people pleasing. And that observer will say, whoa, 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 you don't have to say yes, slow down. And I feel like this is part of my maturing is as a human and soul in this world, is allowing the slowdown before going into old patterns of people pleasing and instant gratification and such. There's a slowdown, and then there's a possibility of preventing the impact that this will have on me and everyone involved. And it's okay if I do it anyways, and I learn and I grow and from it. And so that's what came up for me.
Nice. That's beautiful. Yeah. So when I was giving you all these words, I'm like, okay. And so it's fun to have this interaction to where it's totally authentic. Do you want to pick another one?
49.
49 is alignment.
Oh, yay. Well, I love that. And what I feel right away is like I'm feeling into my spine and my spinal alignment, but it feels like alignment with my truth and myself and my soul. And to me, that's one of the most powerful practices and devotions I can have, is alignment with my deepest truth. And another word to me that's connected to alignment is self-honesty. Like profound self-honesty, and even like self-honesty with that like deeper below that self-honesty, and being able to really be honest about what's true and what's not, and what's in alignment and what just isn't. And that to me is a big part of this path and journey.
Yeah, we can't get too far. I feel like the more, I call it fierce, like fierce truth, right? When you're fiercely truth, or you're fiercely on a mission to understand what your truth actually is, it's how you're going to unravel a lot of what is not working for you and recognize what you can do to align or choose what will allow that truth. And it also allows us to question our truths, like, why is this true for me? So I like that segue and that association.
Yes. Thank
Another?
you, CJ. One other thing to say with the alignment is, for me, it's a big one on my journey has been, oh, whoa, this is my truth, but is this going to upset the person I'm speaking to, whoever that is, like the client or the friend or the partner or family member? And so in terms of alignment with truth, it reminds me as well of loyalty to the soul, and realizing that the only true betrayal is self-betrayal,
right?
And soul betrayal. And I was recently talking to a man that I've been dating. Oh, he's so sweet. I really adore him here in Kansas. And I said to him on one of our first dates, how do you feel about telling me something you don't think I want to hear? Like about telling me a truth that might really upset me. He's like, oh, I would hate that. and I was like, okay, yeah, I get that, but like, are you willing to do that? And he's like, ooh, but I don't like it. And I was like, all right. So here's the thing. Like, we're not going to get very far unless you are willing to hurt me to stay true to you. And it was like I could just see his mind blown.
Right.
And I said, it doesn't do me any favors or us any favors for you to tell me what I want to hear or what you think I want to hear. And I promise to do the same for you. And I feel like that's a next paradigm of relationship, especially in the romantic arena. Like, can you hurt me to stay true to yourself? One of the first questions I will ask.
That's brave and that's bold and that's beautiful, girl. And and it's giving someone that permission to be authentic, because we don't want a superficial relationship. We don't want the facade.
No.
We don't want the smoke and mirrors. We
No.
really, in other words, I'm big enough. I'm going to attempt to accept all the above.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever comes my way, because at least I'll know it's your truth. I know what I'm dealing with.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And
Exactly.
how can you honor another without that?
It's trusting another's capacity to handle anything. We all are fully capable of handling anything and everything. And to see each other in that light is to see each other as fully empowered and fully resourced. And that's the relationship I want to be in. It's not always easy. I can speak from experience that I don't love hearing like, Cora, I care about you and I'm just not feeling a romantic connection with you. It's like, oh, okay. That's a little unfortunate for my heart, but it's okay. Like, but to give each other the space to handle it. I recently withheld information from one of my best friends because I was worried that it would hurt her feelings or upset her. And she found out through someone else naturally, because that's how my soul does it. Like we're gonna just fix this real fast. And she was triggered that I hadn't told her. And we got on a phone call and she said, Cora, I feel like, she's like, I've never not trusted you. And I'm having a hard time trusting you right now because you didn't see me as fully resourced. You decided I couldn't handle what you had to tell me. She's like, and that hurts. And I said, oh my goodness, I see you as fully resourced. I didn't treat you as fully resourced. And there's a difference. And I am so sorry. And then through some inner processing, I realized I wasn't seeing myself as fully resourced because I was scared I wouldn't be able to handle her upset. And so it's just all of that. That was like 2 weeks ago.
How beautiful is it, though, to be shown that we can start creating relationships on a soul level, like from the get-go.
Yes.
Even if those others may or may not be in their own connection to their soul or see themselves as a soul embodiment, truly having a human experience, you're offering them that capacity by presenting it as yourself.
Yes,
I mean,
exactly.
that is the next level. I have to agree that, and that's one of my favorite sayings in life, whether it's with friends or a client, is close your eyes. Like, close your eyes and tell me what you see on a soul level about yourself and this person or this dynamic. And what would you do differently? Like, don't worry about the pain or the emotion. See it on a soul level. Like, in other words, to me, on a soul level, the human aspects.
Oh, I can't hear you.
Did I lose you?
The sound went away for a moment, but now you're back. But I heard the human aspects and then it went out.
Well, I guess what I was saying is that I just feel like the soul is like the parent. It will always love and accept the child unconditionally. It doesn't judge necessarily because it's not minded the way the human is. So if we look at one another and ask ourselves, how am I affecting and navigating with this soul, rather than looking at each other as another human being, looking at it as an actual soul who already knows all the answers and all the secrets and all the hesitances and resistance on a human level. We can close our eyes and just go straight to the soul level and navigate in that context. it seems to me to be a much more direct, pure, gentle, graceful approach and result.
Mm. I love that. One of my mentors, Gazale, and well, I work with two, and they're their brother and sister, Gazale and Amir, and they live in Australia. But they say we're either making our decisions based on the story or based on our truth. And so to close eyes and go into the soul's truth, it's so empowering. And that they are badasses about this, CJ. They say, if you feel to do something, don't look in the bank account first and then decide. It's feel to do it, make the decision, it's done. It's happening. Don't look to the story to validate that now is a good time or we have the resources. It's very courageous living.
Very courageous living. And it requires us to have that full-on faith, that divine guidance.
Yep.
And if you don't live that way, you'll never know how supported you are.
Yeah. Mic drop. I love that. That really landed. If I don't live that way, I won't know the depths of the support that's there. I mean, with finances again, these mentors will say many people have to hit broke to realize how supported they are, because we hit that point and we're still okay.
Right.
Like everything works out. And I'm not saying everybody has to hit that point. It depends on our curriculum with finances, how much power we have in it, we've put in it. But yes, I really love that. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I just to speak to that too, I think that there is something, kind of a fresh wave of, I'm seeing a few things like divine feminine and a fresh way of knowing our worth and how important it is in the world, and being willing to say, this is what I offer and I have to feed myself. I would give it away because I would literally give my services away. And I have a huge section of what I do, contributionalism. But it's knowing that we're worth that it is effective, and this is like gold, and it's okay to say, well, yeah, I'm putting a dollar amount on something, even though I know in a way this is going to change your life. Your entire life is going to change. The quality of your existence is going to change forever. And how can you put a price on that? So, and I still have, that where I usually set things up to where it's like pay in full or pay half now and half at the half mark. Because, they realize that, okay, I'm investing in something. I'm investing in myself. And so there's that, but even so, sometimes it's difficult to say, oh yeah, we're at that half mark, even though I try to make it so simple, and even that's unnatural for me. But there's another thing that's coming forward and going, this is what the world needs. It's like the new black. So wear it and do it, because get people used to it, right? And then there's another part that's going, I really wish I could just exchange. And I think we're working towards that on a new societal level, is this way of maybe not bartering or something, but just a way of contributionism where we do what we're passionate about, we do what we've got experience in that really is showing that inclination of the effectiveness, and it will just draw people. And that's what's happened since I left the mainstream work and said, okay, this is all I'm going to do. I'm dedicating myself 100% to it, and I have no employer, I have no paycheck, I have no insurance, I have none of this. And the only insurance I have is the connection to source and where I'm guided and what I'm guided to do on a day-to-day basis, literally. And if I hadn't have jumped off the trampoline to know that there's no need for a landing, that you will be carried and guided, and that's it. I mean, talk about paradigm shifting, right?
You've had so many mic drop moments. I love that my connection to source is my insurance. Boom. And yes, we never know how powerfully we're carried if we don't leap, if we don't take the leap. And I also, in my own life, I have found my pattern has been I leap and I trust and I'm taken care of, and it's like that rush of aliveness. It's so scary. It's so scary. I've jumped out of a plane and it actually is very similar. It's like that leap, and then we're okay, we're safe, it works out, the money comes, the whatever it is, the person walks in, and then I've noticed that then I joke that I then am on solid ground again, and I start to kind of build my little cottage on the ground and on solid ground, and I feel safe and secure and comfortable and start to get attached to my life and surroundings. And then it's like, time to leap again. Yeah. No, but I'm so comfortable here. Yes, I know, darling. And it's not a one-time thing. We're leapers.
Yeah. It's a game. Life is a game of leapfrog.
It is.
Get used to it. Like, yeah, get used to it. Cora, I want to leave enough time for two more things. One is to, with all of the work that we do, all the type of the nature of what we do, and the current world situation, is there anything really pronounced within your experience that you just like, if I had a message to the world about this now moment and about what's going on, what would you say? What would you share?
My feeling is that there is a profound shift occurring that is requiring that as a globe, as a collective, we clean out the corners of the attic and the cracks in the basement, and we look at everything we haven't wanted to look at, all the shamey, shadowy, dark, guilty, fear, all of that, and we let that move up and out. And I see that happening collectively, globally. I see that happening individually. And I feel like what we're headed to is an experience of what life can be like when all of that shifts out, which I would describe as heaven on earth, which really is already here. And my strong message would be to trust the process deeply and love ourselves and all, and be really gentle with ourselves through this. Where we are headed is more beautiful than we can even begin to imagine. And so that's what I focus on.
Bullseye, boom. Mic drop.
Yes.
Yeah, that's I feel that.
Mm-hmm.
As well. And it's good to have that affirmed.
I keep hearing the golden age, but I don't know what that means or if that's already happened. I'm not sure, but that's what I feel like we are headed there. So
the golden age is the association to the age of Aquarius and the age or the period of time where Christ consciousness is fully embraced and demonstrated amongst the species, where that consciousness of oneness between people, places, and things. So there's a deep reverence and a symbiotic relationship. Everything that we do becomes harmonious. And again, it's the new earth it requires us to get our mind set, literally, to set our minds into our heart centeredness.
Yes.
And walk the walk with every, first and foremost within us, but then with every interaction that we co-create. And the age of Aquarius being the revolutionary age, like doing things differently, thinking outside of the box, recalibrating. So yeah, and we are now, getting that age of Aquarius. So you are again a bullseye with that Christ consciousness. And a lot of people, they're like, well, Christ is coming back. Well, metaphorically, yes, we are. We are minding ourselves as he did, with love for all. On a very basic level, yes, he's risen within us, and we are adapting his nature. That's the reflection, I would say, that seems to be the most apparent and practical, right? Like, we become minded in our hearts. Gorgeous. How can people reach out to you? I'll add this into the link, and when we post it, I'll make sure everybody has the connect. But is there, for those who are inspired, how do they reach out to you? How do they find you?
Well, the best way is Cora at corapoage.com for emails if there's specific questions or just people feel moved to connect, or my website, corapoage.com, although I don't update it haven't updated it in a while. And then Facebook and Instagram are both good places. At Coach Coco is my Instagram. Facebook, I think it's just Cora Poage, but I'm not totally sure on that. But yes, all of those are great ways to connect with me.
Perfect. Well, I highly recommend for those that tune in and enjoy this, treat yourself. Just treat yourself. You'll never regret it. And thank you so much for participating. It is my mission to allow the world around us to know that we're right here. We're their neighbors, we're their community members, and we're not, professing to be anything but maybe a little bit further along on a part of a journey that could help them recognize themselves and empower them and be their muse and be their cheerleaders, and to allow them to ignite their inner hero, right? And thank you for walking the walk.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you for walking the walk as well. And so our paths get to cross again and again, I trust.
Yeah, well, girl, when you get here, that's happening for sure. But until then, we'll deep dive like this when we can.
I would love that.
Well, stay bright, beautiful. Thank you again for your time and your wisdom and your gorgeous energy.
You're so welcome, CJ. To be continued.
To be continued. Namaste, sister.
Namaste.
All right. Woohoo! Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that. Cora is astoundingly intuitive, so I will add the links to the recording so you guys can reach out to her. And until then, stay bright. Much love to you all. Aloha.